You're in the interviewer.
All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Joshua J. Ramirez. I'm a social practice artist, also a curator, and the founder of St. Remy Arts and Culture, a 501c3 nonprofit that gives free art classes to individuals with mental illness, PTSD, and suicidal thoughts. So today we were fortunate enough to be interviewing Jahn, better known as Baby. This is his final thesis show. So Jahn, tell me a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to the audience.
I'm getting my master's degree. I think that's the most interesting thing about me is to jump off a bridge like that.
I actually was going to start with a question like that. How does it feel to be, I know how I feel, but how does it feel to be done officially?
Exhausting, and I think I'm still in it, so I've numbed myself.
Yeah.
And maybe like next week or after I walk, it's just gonna be crying.
Right. I know. I was
yeah.
like in my bed this morning, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm done, but at the same time, I'm relieved, but at the same time, I feel sort of sad. Mm-hmm. Like I don't want it to be over, but at the same time, I want it to be over. Mm-hmm. Like I'm gonna miss like you and Luka and some of these amazing people in this cohort. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna miss the amount of work that we had, like any MA or MFA program.
Like Andy asking us to read a book every week.
Exactly. It was an immense amount of work, and for some of us, like I have 4 classes and a full TA-ship. I mean, it's exhausting, but at the same time too, I feel like it's extremely rewarding, don't you think? I think too, it's like, and I know I talk about this all the time, like we've had so many conversations, even though like we don't really get to talk about art and all those other things because we're just so busy about just, what it is to be in community. I think that's the one thing that I'm gonna miss, and talking to other MA and MFA people, it's like that community of people, that support, that's really great. So yeah, congrats on being done. And I wanted to lead in with a question that often gets maybe overlooked, or maybe maybe we don't think about too much since it's finally done. So tell me about like your thesis and what your work kind of leans towards, or maybe leans against, or maybe omits. Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
I think the core theme of my work is care, asking for care and trying to get it, and vulnerability.
Interesting, yeah.
And the awkwardness and ugliness of vulnerability, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Like for me, so I grew up in a very, as you know, like I'm very open with the way I grew up. I just grew up, we're here in LA in the Arts District. This used to be like Skid Row. I grew up just over the bridge in East Los Angeles and Boyle Heights. But I mean, for me, I didn't learn, like vulnerability was not a strength. But what I learned is like, for me, vulnerability was an act of resistance. And also like, it was empowering for me. Do you feel like that could be the same way? Like, cause these pictures and these images are so vulnerable and so like reminiscent of like, because you're playing with like childhood objects. Paintings are finished and not finished and complete. So I find myself like looking at them and then seeing something new like every day. Like, was that like your intention, or what were you thinking about that?
My intention was to strike at as many different ways as I could for letting people in. So these aren't necessarily objects from my childhood.
Yeah.
They're almost entirely all from estate sales.
Okay.
So looking at different generations of objects, whether it be the retiring or passed away parent, or the child's room with the toys that they kept in their home.
Interesting. So we say the objects, because I'm a lot older than you, so some of these objects are maybe like are loaded with meaning. The way I see objects are like every object, once it's complete, not just artwork, but has like a life. So what I'm seeing is you have like cameras and cups and things that, are so part of the way we grew up in the United States, or just all over the world. Would you say that the objects are already like loaded with meaning, or would you say you're adding to that?
I think it's a rescuing, not so much
I like that.
Like looking at the meaning that these things have. They've lived a full life.
Okay.
Or they've been denied a full life. Like I can't know if a stuffed animal was loved. I can assume that at one point it was, but also these are objects that were inevitably given up on.
Interesting.
When a estate sale happens, or a thrift store, anything that's not rescued is abandoned to the public. to try to find a new home for it.
Do you mind if I probe into that a little bit more? Like,
yeah, of course.
Would you say that, in a sense, and not to go like all Freudian or child development, which I studied earlier, because you said that they're abandoned. Like I felt like that same way. That's a very strong word he used, especially like with art or objects. Would you feel that maybe you're reclaiming your identity, or you said you're rescuing, right? So I felt at times abandoned as a kid. Would you feel that you're sort of, you said rescuing the objects, or you feel like maybe that you were abandoned as a child, or maybe your feelings were not really recognized, or maybe reclaiming that?
I think I'm not trying to talk about my childhood specifically.
Okay.
I'm trying to talk about the vulnerability of separating childhood from adulthood.
Interesting.
Like when I think our culture like separates very unhealthily the concept of childhood. Hi, Eric.
It's all right. A little bit of a break there. You're good.
So old people still collect toys. It's not like something unique to childhood. And so there's a vulnerability that gets dismissed and hidden in homes. The need to have a support object or to substitute a support object with genuine connection, whether it be a collection at a home, like an adult can have a toy just to make them feel better. A neglectful parent might get a toy so that they don't have to do the work.
Right.
Or that toy could be the connection that brings the adult to the child, or an adult to an adult, or an adult away from a stressful day at work.
I like that. I mean, for me, art is all about connection. Like when I teach, or when I, just talk about art in general, like for me, all art is a form of communication, right? It's trying to communicate some ideas. And for me, it should take us to a higher moral, intellectual, or spiritual place. It doesn't have to be just those three things. But I mean, to go back to that, and I know like maybe I connected to some of these because I'm reminded of objects that I collect, because I collect antiques, even though I got rid of a bunch recently. But I collect like vintage games and arcades from the 80s and 90s and 70s.
What's your favorite right now?
Oof. I mean, I'm a sucker for Galaga. I have a full Galaga, a vintage Miss Pac-Man.
And my step-grandfather, who I haven't seen for decades now, I don't even know if he's my step-grandfather anymore. I think my father got divorced from him. I haven't seen my father in decades again still. But he was a big Galaga and Centipede. He had a cabinet there, and when I went to visit him, just playing Centipede and Galaga for...
I think too, I love it too, to go back, like, because I lose myself. I think too, it's the, because you said something I didn't really think about, because it's like the rescuing of these objects. So when I see, I think you understand that, like when I find these on like eBay or Facebook Marketplace or whatever, I feel like these objects need to be loved again. And then what I did with a lot of these arcades is I put them in my nonprofit. So it's a way for individuals to connect. So like my space is like full of like a record player and like vintage games and like all these like old cameras, like all these like sort of quote unquote like nostalgic. And I hate using that word because it tends to be overused. But it's a place where people can go and like connect and be creative. It's a space that sparks creativity, right? So I think too, that's oftentimes overlooked. But I want to shift the conversation to something maybe a little more like thematically. I was just interested because the way you situate objects is really interesting to me. Like, how do you come up with some of these like compositions or colors? Because you're definitely liberating color, but then you're also like creating color at the same time. And you also stretch your own, like I see you like the last 2 years, like being very meticulous with like stretching your canvases, and I think that's such a lost art.
Yeah, you have like 3 or 4 questions.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
I'm gonna start with
the first one.
Composition. How do I come up with it?
Yeah,
I'm allowing these things to sit awkwardly, so I'm not trying to control them in like a classical painting sense. Some of them are getting cut off right at the edges. They're off center, kind of wonky. So that way they control the space. It's like a more family snapshot style way of composition where it's de-skilled, or it feels de-skilled, and then putting heavy, awkward attention on certain things, like the Godzilla back there. The horizon is right exactly at the middle.
At the middle, yeah.
So there's some like mathematical relationships that are loose.
Right.
Are strict mathematical relationships in terms of the geometry, in contrast with loose, awkward placement of objects. So I'm playing with that tension.
Okay. And I know I added too many questions on that.
Yeah,
Maybe it was like my ADD kicking in.
Color, I think, was the
The
next
color was the next one.
Yeah. So I'm looking at layering more and more nostalgia. So I wanted to pick color palettes that invoke that, even if it's a false invocation. These colors are coming from the Super Game Boy. Are you familiar with that?
Very familiar. I never owned one as a kid. We were too poor. But like anytime I had a friend or something, I would try to like kind of play with their
Well, that's not the Super Nintendo, Super Game Boy.
Super Game Boy, the portable one, right?
No.
Oh, it's Super Game Boy?
Super Game Boy took the portable Game Boy games. You plug it into
the Super Nintendo. Yeah.
So there's like layers
Okay.
of like parents doing really well that have to get you to a Super Game Boy.
Yeah. That was definitely not me as a kid.
But that came out the year I was born.
Okay.
I grew up with the Game Boy Color, but there's that that sense of it could be me, it could not be me. Just generalization of, I think, my cohort of people, like not necessarily generation, but very specific to the years I was born, like maybe a 5-year gap. Instead of like, what is it, generation usually like 20, right? Or something like
Maybe
that?
like 10,
I don't
15.
know. But like, yeah, 10, 15.
Yeah.
Focusing more on that 5-year of really specific, this could be me, but it's not.
Right.
It's mostly right, but it's not right.
Yeah. And then the last question I had was, or one of the last questions was like I always see, like you spend so much time like loving the material, stretching it, having your own stretcher bars. Like I don't know, I think we've had more conversations at the table, you stretching your work than actually like in your studio. But do you find that as like for me, like when I wash or iron, it's kind of therapeutic. I don't know if you find that as a sense of like, because you're caring for the actual canvas, because it's the labor, exactly.
So I chose a weird fabric. Instead of using a cotton canvas, I used a knit, and I was very specific about the knit I chose. Did I tell you about it? What do you remember?
Maybe. Yeah. Can you tell me again?
What do you remember?
I don't remember much, but I mean, some of the, as you know, like we're so bombarded with work, and we have these. I'm just like, so go ahead.
So I was working
Refresh me.
with fabric from the Fox Fiber Project, which Sally Fox started in the 80s. She has both an agricultural and arts background. She was teaching a class at Cal Poly, and it was a spinning class, and one of her students made mention that their son passed away to heavy metal poisoning.
Oof.
So Sally, with her background, came to the deduction if the cotton was bred to be darker in color, less dye would be used, and less people would suffer through that use of dye.
Interesting.
So instead of starting from white, purposely like lean into a darker color, tried to breed different strains of cotton for different uses. And that forced her into organic cotton. That forced her out of anybody that really associates with like Monsanto and genetically modified cotton crop for pesticide. That forced her into working with partners that were very boutique, ethically minded, because like if you have a brown cotton, you can't be in the same mill as a white cotton. So it requires more work inevitably that forces you into smaller businesses which have a higher chance of being ethical. So thinking about how those small acts of care about making like an ethical choice can roll into more ethical choices.
Would you want more artists to like maybe choose canvases that are more
No, I don't
ethically?
think it's necessary. Like I'm not going to ask this. These were a pain in the ass. They're a labor of love. They're incredibly difficult to stretch because the material is stretchy.
Yeah.
Beyond those moral choices that started the decision, there's the aesthetic choices that back it up. So they end up looking, the fabric ends up looking like a paper bag or cardboard or something like that, which these objects might find themselves in like long-term storage in.
Right.
Or
Was it harder to paint on, or is it?
it changed how I painted.
It changed how you painted.
That's why I had to start painting flat instead of rounded.
Right. But I mean, as you know, like obviously it works. But
Yeah, the choice of the fabric forced me into painting differently, parallel to how like Sally Fox's choice in making something ethical
right.
forced her into more ethical decisions.
That's great. I love that. Like, so you're hitting on archiving, on labor. So I would say like even your personal and professional work is like just multi-layered. So who you are, like we had so many conversations I keep repeating, but about just like labor and the lack of recognition of labor in the art world. I mean, just in general, like for me being a brown man and seeing all the people that, you know, are cutting the grass and doing all these, you know, very labor intensive jobs that don't really get recognized. I remember when I was a kid, I used to help my dad like cut the grass and, you know, neighbor's grass for like $5 and do these amazing, you know, sort of very high skilled jobs that don't get recognized. And I think that's one of maybe what you're trying to do. Like maybe, you know, these are objects that don't get recognized and forgotten about. This is a skill that doesn't get, you know, very, very like seen very often, right? So maybe you're touching on all these things, or maybe I'm wrong.
I think choosing an artist inevitably puts you in that labor conversation because it's a blend of physical and intellectual labor. And there's just no way around it.
There's no way around it.
And I don't know where I'm going with this. You had a very...
There's a love for that labor though. For me, I love doing those like small gestures of like kindness and labor. To me, that's just as important as putting a paint to the actual brush. There's a really good friend of mine that, go ahead.
I think I know where I want to take this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think choosing an artist is difficult because societal like devaluation of art. There's like the starving artist trope.
Yeah, which I hate.
Right, and it devalues the labor that goes into making something.
Right.
And art making, I think, is something that gets hit pretty hard when manufacturing goes out of country, or labor goes out of country, because the class of people that can afford and would appreciate gets diminished.
Right.
Wages are stagnate, go down. You're competing with cheaper goods produced overseas, and you start getting compared to goods. Like these are luxury items, and luxury items are being made in China. Being shipped to Italy
for the final touches, and then being sold as
it's made in Italy.
Yeah, I remember teaching my students, because I taught TA for a class called like pop culture. And I remember letting them know like, hey, a Michael Kors bag actually costs like $50 from start to finish.
Right.
And it's sold for $2,500.
Right. And yeah, so I'm choosing a profession.
Not Michael Kors, Christian Dior,
Yeah,
sorry, whatever. I can't, I know, I'm not
there are a lot of companies
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the same trend.
Right.
So what does it mean to like choose a profession where you're constantly being outcompeted?
Yeah.
You're in an incredibly expensive place in the world to live, and you're forced to be there in order to have a career.
True. New York, LA.
New York, LA, any urban hub. What is to choose like a life of to do something you're passionate is frowned upon.
Yeah, and it's definitely a luxury. As you know, like most of...
I think it's mischaracterized as a luxury.
I was going to say...
I think it's foundational human needs. Like you go to any archaeological site,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a little cave painting of someone screwing somebody else, and little weird objects.
You know me, I'm a big proponent of people
Yeah.
creating art. What I mean by a luxury is like, you know, like being taught in schools. Like during my research, I found that, you know, most art is taught in private, not in public schools. Art is being taken away as like a human right. So I think too, hopefully that gets fixed one day.
I think by not calling it a luxury is what
point.
gets that on the right track. Because I think what makes humans special is our very complicated ways of communicating.
Right.
And art is an incredibly complicated way of
Yeah.
communicating that challenges critical thinking skills and
For sure.
internal dialogues of the people making it, and their ability to communicate in unconventional ways,
Yeah.
like to like pick the color green and be like, I want people to feel sad. How do I make green sad?
Right.
That's something incredibly complicated to communicate and very specific to your moment in time.
Yeah.
Once you become divorced, I want to say divorced, and that's not right. Divorced from the time you're making art, the art usually doesn't hold up. Like, as a painter, I have to compete with all of human history, but Da Vinci's no longer painting, so he hasn't made anything really relevant.
I wouldn't even say the Mona Lisa is relevant. I know it's
a cool technical painting, but
technically it's great.
technically there's a lot you can learn from it, but it doesn't
move you.
It doesn't speak to my anxieties or my hopes or the
dreams.
things I love.
Right. Before we end, I'd like to end on first, congratulations on finishing such an amazing body of work.
Thank you.
All the labor that goes seen and unseen. But I'd like to end with, where would you say, not just you yourself, because I feel like that always gets asked, where would you say your work is going from here? Like, what do you see yourself going, or where do you see your work going in the next, I guess after graduation, the next year or two?
What I want to do is find a way to support myself outside of academics, because academics aren't doing well.
You don't say.
Yeah. So that's been like the pipeline for a lot of people who get masters.
To teach.
And I want to teach, but I don't have much faith in the institution right now. So, and I don't want to just go out of masters and start teaching undergrad. I want to build up more life experience if I choose to go back to that.
I think that's smart.
So the goals I have for myself is I want to do residencies. A large part of this work was the photos of road trips that I stitched in. All these little like
Right.
things going on. They're from a road trip last summer, and I think going on more trips and talking to build that repository of like memories to talk to is something I want to do.
That sounds good. Well, I can't wait to see where your work goes from here, and thanks so much for this conversation. Look forward to future conversations.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.